see here to demonstrate and explain my patent for an energy cell regenerative system for electrically powered aircraft. The patent has a priority date of April 2014. We filed a utility patent in March of 2015, and it has passed a national and international search. There are 21 claims. If you're watching this, you should have signed a non-disclosure agreement, and if you haven't, you can contact me through my website, www.electronair.com, and I will provide you one. So the invention is a regenerative system for electric aircraft solely powered by electricity, by batteries or energy cells. Right now they are being tested as trainers because they have limited range. Electric aircraft right now seem to be able to stay aloft for about an hour and a half. My invention can make practical general aviation electric aircraft so that they can be used for transportation. Also, millennials will expect to be able to fly quiet, reliable, low carbon emission aircraft. They'll be surprised soon when they become used to so many electronic devices and electric cars which are on the market that a general aviation aircraft is like sitting behind a vibrating tractor. My invention has two parts, a machine and a battery charging algorithm. The machine is a permanent magnet generator mounted inside a cross-flow fan. This is the permanent magnet generator. It has two heads. It's used in wind and hydroelectric applications. It's not a Delco alternator, it's beyond that. And I'm also having a axial flux PMG wound to produce more than this one can. This is a 2,000 watt unit. We can get up to 4,000 watts. The cage is effective because it has airfoil blades. It spins freely in my mount. This is not where the best embodiment for the invention is. Where it will be mounted, I envision in the flying aircraft, would be right here. This is much better for drag. It's 80% inside the cowling, and it still provides cooling for the PMG. The prop blast gives us some kinetic energy to undershoot the turbine, and then the blast runs out the back. The little turbulence vortex generators can be mounted there. This isn't a ram air turbine. It's not out in the slipstream, and I really believe there'll be minimal drag because it's cylindrical and it's spinning, so it's eating some of the prop blast instead of interfering. There are two Regen systems being tested in the industry right now. One is solar panels installed on the wings of the aircraft, and the other is what's called regenerative braking propeller. So at cruise, coasting and descent, the propeller spins backward, and the motor acts like a generator, providing energy back into the battery pack. This invention has nothing to do with propeller regenerative braking. It has been confused with that. Drag does increase with the velocity of an aircraft cubed, but so does the power from a prop blast as the propeller RPMs are increased. The Cessna Electric Aircraft Test Program stated that for a regular Cessna 172 cowling with its openings covered, they gained 13% more efficiency, less drag. I believe that just by adding the turbine here, 90% of it is inside the cowling. Generously, we might have to sacrifice about 10% more drag. How much power can our regenerative system produce? Well, here's the physics. Wind energy for a 20-mile-an-hour wind produces 600 watts per square meter. This is standard. I found on University of Oregon wind power study. The power of the wind increases by its velocity cubed. So if we double the prop blast, the rush of air coming from the propeller to our turbine, we get 4,800 watts of available energy from that prop blast. But the target area of our device on the cowling is only about a half a square meter. So if we divide that in two, we have 2.4 kilowatts of available energy hitting the squirrel cage turbine at 40 miles an hour. So let's double that again to an 80 mile an hour prop blast, which is very reasonable still in flight. We would have 19.2 kilowatts of available energy. Now, testing our system here on the tarmac, we can get 40 mile an hour prop blast from an 800 RPM propeller spinning, and our captured energy, what we are recording, is 400 watts or 0.4 kilowatts from our 40 mile an hour prop blast. It's not a lot, but when you factor it against the 19.2 kilowatts, there we are, we're getting 9.6% energy from the available prop energy from the prop blast. Let's say we increase the prop blast to 120 miles an hour. That gives you 64.8 kilowatts of energy, still reasonable in flight. We then are able to produce 6.22 kilowatts of energy from our turbine. Our PMGs are available in 2,000 watt, that's 2 kilowatts, or 4 kilowatts. The 4 kilowatt is an axial flux PMG, and I'm having one wound right now to maximize its potential. What if we add the aircraft's forward motion? That's another probable amount of available energy. What if we gear our PMG? There'd be a loss of efficiency, but we could gear it so that there would still be an overall gain if we don't make our number. What if we add another PMG? So the system for 2,000 watt system weighs 21 pounds. That's the bracket, the squirrel cage, and the PMG. 4,000 watt system adds 37 pounds to the aircraft. This would affect its climb rate, but not so much its cruise rate. If you look at internal combustion aircraft, 21 pounds is like 3 gallons of avgas, and 37 pounds is like 4.5 gallons. So to me, it doesn't seem like a lot of extra mass. Now let's test it and see how it goes. This is a demonstration of my battery charge and discharge sequence, including timing for my patent-pending Energy Cell Regenerative System for electrically powered aircraft. What I've designed is an imaginary battery pack for a light sport aircraft, perhaps a heavy light sport aircraft. It's 14.4 kilowatts. It's divided into 4 modules. Each module is 120 volts. 2 of the modules are 40 amp hour capacity and the other 2 are 20 amp hour capacity. The foundation of the algorithm is that modules being used to fly the aircraft are being used sequentially, whereas modules being charged are charged simultaneously. We talked before about maybe being able to get 4,000 watts out of the turbine. Perhaps we need to add solar to get that, actually, solar wings. However, when it gets to the battery pack, let's say we're getting 2,000 watts. It can go twice through the channel, or with through the charger, or 2 turbines. So 2,000 watts and 2,000 watts are coming as we are flying the aircraft. We'll always be using more energy to fly the aircraft than we can capture to charge it. This isn't a perpetual motion device, but I believe that the way this is sequenced, the pack will run cooler and we'll be able to be much more efficient because the energy that we're going to be using is coming from about here in the battery pack, 40%. Won't be balancing in flight. We do that in the hangar at the end of the day. So the foundation also of the timing is that I imagine that it would take 10 minutes to discharge a 40 amp hour pack at cruise, 120 volt 40 amp hour pack, and 15 minutes to charge it with our 2000 watts. This we can think of as units, 10 units and 15 units, but it's just a baseline in order to be able to visualize how the sequence runs. However, for taking off, we need more power, so only at that time, or when we need it, we'll use 240 volts to take off to cruise. Then those batteries will be charged and we switch to flying 120 volts at cruise. The battery pack can be wired in parallel sequence. It's on our website, www.electronair.com. So let me demonstrate. What you'll see are green lights are when the battery module is discharging, flying the aircraft. Blue lights are when it is charging, the module is charging. So we're ready to take off. We put 240 volts to the motor through the controller and off we go. I imagine it would take 5 minutes to get to 2,000 feet altitude. At that time, the charger begins charging and we fly on module number 3 for 5 minutes. 1 and 2 are still charging. It took 7.5 minutes, while module 4 is flying the aircraft for how long? 10 minutes, that's what we said. And then the sequence begins to cycle normally from here on. These batteries now charge simultaneously, while module number 1 is flown for 10 minutes. This will take 7.5 minutes to charge. That takes 15 minutes to charge. So what you'll see is this will go out. 7.5 minutes have elapsed from the 10 and from the 15. Number 1 is depleted and now we begin flying on number 2. When number 4 is charged, we start charging numbers 1 and 2 at the same time and back to flying on number 3. So that's the sequence. That's how it would work optimally. The other testing that I've been doing and that I haven't really arrived at a conclusion but I think is intriguing is what if we were able to speed up the sequence and fly the aircraft with that sort of configuration. I think it has some merit. I think it should be studied, and I think that the timing therefore is not just the ratios but how fast the battery pack is rotated. Well, thank you very much. You know, I know I'm an independent inventor here in my firehouse, but I do believe that this is a breakthrough that can really change the course of sustainable aviation for the future. The embodiments of the invention do apply. There's prop blast spinning, turbine. This time I added a lifting body to direct the blast over the stabilizer. And this is half scale, so you need to make it gigantic. Whoa.